Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. This week, I wanted to talk about the power of connecting with nature. And I'm aware this might sound a little bit like woo woo, like a little bit spiritual almost. Like, I don't really talk about shit like this. However, I'm someone who has honestly had this kind of through line in my life of leaning on nature when everything is overwhelming or stressful or upsetting or like I don't know what to do. My default has always kind of been to just fuck off, like off the grid, get off my phone and go connect with nature in some way. Whether that's swimming in the sea, it's that a lot of the time, or it's like just going and sitting. Like near where I live, there's a lot of like viewpoints that you can go park at or sit at, and just you can see the beaches, or you can see, just look over the horizon and you can look at like the stars and like, there's a lot of fields and woodland areas and shit where I live. Where I live is very pretty, so it's very easy to kind of connect to nature when I live in such a pretty part of the UK. I live in Cornwall. And I don't know, recently I've been reflecting on the fact that there really is a through line in my life when I feel overwhelmed and I feel stressed. Just being in nature and being outdoors has kind of always been my default way to get my ducks in a row and like feel like myself again and clear my mind. And I think this is for a reason. Nature has a lot of, therapeutic qualities. And there's so many benefits and studies about being out in nature. Your cognitive function, your sleep, your focus, your stress, everything. Like, we all know that, like, going outside, getting out in nature, going for walks, going in the sea and stuff is actually fucking good for you. But I wanted to talk about it today because I do think it is so easy in the current world we live in to forget how healing nature is. It's like, everyone says on social media as like a joke when someone's just like got their fucking panties in a twist. They're like, this person needs to touch some grass. Like, get the fuck off their phone and go outside. And this is something that I actually strongly believe in is we all need to get the fuck off our phones a little bit and go outside, because reality is not on your phone. That's not the real world. And I know this is a stale topic. We all know all of these things, but like, it is crazy how easy it is. I find it very easy to slide into not spending, like, I can spend days without actually being in the real fucking world. And I don't mean that by like I've spent days on my phone, but like you spend enough time on social media and on your phone and like going into work. A lot of our workplaces are indoors or like office spaces or something, sitting looking at a computer or like in a shop or in a restaurant or something. And like, you might spend 8 hours a day there, and then you come home and maybe you watch TV and then you go to bed and you do it again. And it's so easy with social media and phones on top of that to like just spend so much time without being actually in nature and being outdoors and realizing how fucking beneficial it is and how much more sane you feel when you touch some grass, you know? And the reason that I wanted to talk about it today is because I have been having a week. When it rains, it pours. That quote is very apt in my life. I don't know why that is. Like, whenever there's something going on in my life, everything else just goes on at the same time, and then give it a couple of weeks and nothing's going on, like stress wise. Do you know what I mean? It's always all or nothing. And I've just had a week, where it's just been a lot going on, a lot on my mind. I've been a bit like tense and stressed and overwhelmed. And I think I went for a walk with my dog the other day, and I just had my phone in my bag. I didn't even like go on it. I didn't have any headphones. I was just walking through some fields. The sun was setting. The moon was fucking huge, and I am obsessed with the moon. I Like I said, there's always been this connection that I feel like that I've had with the moon and the sea and nature. And I know I sound fucking mental, but like that has really like grounded me and given me sanity. Sometimes just if I'm stressed, just sit me in front of the moon for an hour and I guarantee I'll be fine after. Like, it just like, I don't know, it like really zooms me out. It gives me that perspective, and like it reconnects me to myself, I think, a lot of the time as well, because of that grounding quality that nature has. You spend time outside and in the sea or whatever it is that you're doing, and you feel more like yourself. I don't know, I feel like a lot of people will probably relate to this, because I'm sure it's like a universal experience that nature has this effect on us. But like, I feel so the most myself when I'm outside and I'm in nature and I'm prioritizing getting out the house and just being in nature, it makes me feel the most like myself more than anything ever. And I was on this dog walk and the moon was so nice and it was so pretty and it was so quiet. There was like no sound. And I was like, that half an hour walk gave me so much more sanity than sitting in my house trying to think my way through things. Do you know what I mean? I feel like that's something that, again, is very easy to do when you've got something going on or something stressing you out. It's so easy to try and process it all in your head and kind of mentally solve the problems. And I think sometimes you can drive yourself mad doing that. And everyone's a bit different, but for me, if I spend a chunk of time outside, I feel just as good after half an hour outside than I would have for like hours trying to fucking figure it out in my head. Sometimes the like worst thing to do when you're stressed is to try and think your way out of it. It's like there's so many different outlets that put you into your body that actually help a lot more, like exercising, going for a run, moving your body. I think a lot of the time these are the things that actually make you feel better because your emotions aren't always mental. Sometimes it's like stored in your body, the emotions and stuff, and like giving that kind of an outlet sometimes instead of just being more in your head and stressing yourself out more. Sorry, ignore my nails. I got my nails done and I've like fucking wrecked them. I've like snapped them all off and they look so bad. But I don't know. I think as well for me, I kind of, the way that I see things sometimes, I see this kind of distinction between, like I said, the real world and this kind of weird fake thing that we live in a lot of the time, which is like being on your phone, being in social media, working like corporate jobs and 9 to 5. Like that's all kind of like shit that we do, but it's not like reality. Like it is, but do you know what I mean? I don't know how to fucking describe this, but it's kind of like there's two sides of life in my head. Of like, there's the real world, which is being, spending quality time with people, getting off your phone, having good conversations, being out in nature, touching grass, like actually fucking doing things that are going to make you feel good and like humans are made to do. We're meant to be, we're a part of nature, we're kind of all weave in and out of each other. There's cycles with the tides and the moons and our moods and our periods and everything. It's all kind of like, a lot of it is very intertwined. And I personally, like I said, I feel quite strongly connected to that kind of thing. Everyone's going to be different and everyone's kind of spirituality or religion or anything, it doesn't even have to be like that deep to you. You don't even have to see it as like a spirituality. It can just be kind of how you view the world. But anyway, I kind of see that like reality, like you're rooted in the world. And then there's like you're kind of doing the shit that you have to do in the modern world. You're having to drive a car to work and like just shit that it's like that in the like years ago it would be like, what the fuck is that? Do you know what I mean? Like we're just like doing the like things that I don't know that humans are built for a lot of the time. Very big conversation that I'm having right now. But you know what I mean? It's kind of like there's certain shit that we have to do, like texting and driving cars and getting trains to work and sitting inside and having a break room, and everything is just kind of, it can feel kind of like cold and like soulless, but like we kind of have to have a job and we kind of have to do these things. Do you know what I mean? I need to stop like fucking flicking my nails around because I'm gonna edit this and be like, ugh, ew, they look so bad. But for me, I spend a certain amount of time in that kind of fake world, whatever you want to call it. And I have to kind of balance it a bit with some time in the real world, or I feel like I'm losing my marbles. Like, if I'm on my phone and I'm at work for a long time, I have to come home and go for a walk, or come home and go in the sea, or come home and like, I don't know, like ground myself back into like reality. Do you know what I mean? I just think nature has this way of like really like in a short period of time being outside and being in nature, you just feel like you're going from here to here and you're back to like feeling like yourself and feeling like everything's at a pace that you can actually fucking meet. Do you know what I mean? The world at the moment is so fast paced and it is so like not sustainable. Like we all feel so stressed and so rushed because everything is kind of built in this way that like humans aren't designed to go that fast, and to do all these things and be so hyper productive and like, trying to do everything in the most efficient way ever. And sometimes like, I don't know, I think people are built to fucking like be out in nature and like picking berries and like, I don't know, like it doesn't feel like natural. And I think that's why like obviously in this current world, we have to kind of abide by the fake world shit. You know, we what the fuck am I talking about? Like, we have to work and have jobs and pay bills and drive cars, and like, that's just the world we live in. You know, we have to. I mean, we don't have to. There's always fucking other options. You could live in the woods if you want. People do. But like, what the actual fuck am I talking about? Anyway, you know, that's the world we live in. But at the same time, I think then it's very easy, this is what I mean, to not ground yourself back in reality, and to not reconnect with what makes you feel connected to yourself. And again, that's gonna be different for everyone. Nature has a lot of fucking benefits for everyone and stuff, but there might be something else that, you know, for you, like I said, sometimes religion. I just think everyone kind of has something that centers them, you know? Something is usually like some sort of relationship with something that feels a bit bigger. Do you know what I mean? It could be nature, it could be a god, it could be religion, it could be music. Do you know what I mean? I think anything is like, it's so subjective, and what feels kind of spiritual to you is like your fucking business. Do you know what I mean? But whatever that is, like, regularly tapping into that so that you don't get sucked into the fucking fake world. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's so easy to spend ages and be like, oh my God, I've not like put my feet on the ground. Like, physically, I have, but like, I haven't slowed the fuck down. And that's something that I think nature has an amazing power of doing. Does that make any sense? I don't know. Is that you can spend a whole day going fast paced in the world that we currently live in, and then, you know, you go for a walk through a field, and, you know, the pace suddenly feels drastically more realistic. And like, you know, you just look at the trees and the plants and the wind blowing through it all, and you look at the clouds all moving, and everything is just a little bit more like, do you know what I mean? It just feels like this I can match, this pace I can work with. This feels like a breath of fresh air. Is that some weird pun? Maybe. I don't know if I've just made a pun. But like, I don't know, personally, that has always been something that centers me. And I think as well for me, like, there's a lot of things going on in our lives, you know, a lot of external shit, like friendships and romantic relationships and work. I know there's so many things in our lives that are external to us, you know, as much as your friends and your boyfriend and things that they're important to you and they're close to you and they're a part of your life, they're not you. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're still external things. And I think for me, having kind of my own little relationship with nature, it has this kind of peace to it and this kind of constant to it that we don't necessarily get from external shit and people and relationships. And that, you know, these things like they can fluctuate and they can be up and down, and you can have arguments and things can go wrong. And like, I'm not trying to be a pessimist, but I mean, I think it's important to have things that you can kind of tap into that feel constant and feel safe and feel like, I don't know, that's what I mean, like some sort of bigger thing that like you have a relationship with, and you have this kind of like, I can go to this and this will be kind of like a rock to me. Everything can be stressful, you can be going through so much, you can have the worst day or the best day, and the moon is still going to come up, the sun is still going to come up, the stars are still going to be there, the trees do you know what I mean? That's never going to change, and it feels so calming and constant. And like, in a world where not many fucking things actually are that constant, I don't know. I just think if you rely on external things to keep you sane and connected to yourself and feeling good, you know, whether that is your relationships or your friendships or your work or literally anything ever that's external, like, it's just something that's gonna come with a bit more uncertainty. And I think it's important, at least I have found, to have something that I can kind of turn to and that's constant and will relax me and doesn't change. You know, having a relationship with something like that where I can go to that and I can just take a breather and like feel calm again and like reconnect and get my ducks back in a row. And I don't know, it's just, for me, connecting with nature is one of those things, like, it just never changes. It's always the same and it's always there. And there's something about it that it has this power of putting everything into perspective, you know? It's very easy to feel like everything in your life is very, very big and very, very important. And then you sit and you look at the sky and you're like, oh, it's not that deep. Do you know what I mean? And I love things like that. I love things that put things into perspective, because I don't like to take life too seriously. You know, I am someone who I'm quite introspective, obviously, and I like to think about things, and I find life very interesting, but I actively don't want to take it that seriously. I actively want to keep things in check and keep a kind of lightness to everything, have that kind of levity with it. Um, I don't do well with taking life too seriously. Like, I would just lose my mind. I'm like, I just want to have some fun now. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just want to like find the fun in things, and I don't know. I think when everything feels like a bit too much, I love that I can just go outside and I'm like off my phone and I'm like, oh, okay, like this is reminding me that I am losing my sanity to something that is so temporary. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know, I just think it's important and it's so beneficial to just have something in your life that centers you and that grounds you and that feels like some sort of constant that you can rely on beyond your relationships and your friendships and your work, because those things, as much as they are lovely things and they are like kind of what life's all about, they bring so much joy and that's so important, but they're not necessarily constants, you know? I think it's also putting an immense amount of pressure on another human being to rely on them to be your constant all the time. Like, obviously, there's an element of that in relationships and things, like, you know, like your partner or something is like this kind of relaxing, consistent thing in your life, but it's like a different level of consistent. They're still, you know, they're still human, and you can't expect too much of any human being. You know, it almost wouldn't be fair to. I think you get my point, but like, it almost wouldn't be fair to like lean on your partner or your friends or whatever for like your sanity all the time when it's like they've also got their own shit going on, you know, they're trying their best too. Like, no one is constant. Are you constant? No. So like, why would they be? But I think, you know, in times when shit hits the fan, having this kind of through line and this kind of invisible string, Taylor Swift reference, that's been kind of tying you to something bigger and more constant, um, you know, and keeping you upright, I think that just is so beyond helpful. It just makes you feel so much more secure in everything, that even if shit does hit the fan and things go wrong and everything's not going in the way that you predict or want, it's okay, because you have this bigger sense of peace and like things will work out how they should work out. Do you know what I mean? And like I said, that thing will be different for everyone. But I think without that, personally, in my experience, without something that feels like that kind of center, you know, and thing that I can go to center myself, I feel lost, to be honest, you know, because then when shit does hit the fan, you're only really left to either turn to other people or turn to your brain and try and work it out yourself. And you can only kind of do so much with that, you know. It's almost like having something above all of that that's just like consistently the same and like gives you that perspective is like, I don't know, for me the only way to not feel like I'm just grasping at things, to feel like solid and like reliable, and like everything is just like failing to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? It's just like nothing can be relied on 100% other than something like above you that's like some sort of constant. I don't know. This is like a really interesting conversation because it is so bordering on the spiritual and like religious and shit, but like I said, it can also be music. It could also be, I don't know, something that just feels to you like some sort of rock and some sort of center and something you have this close relationship with and you're almost in love with. Do you know what I mean? This thing that you're just like in love with, that it's like you can kind of like disappear into and feel like it's kind of like hugging you. Do you know what I mean? Like something that is always there and that will not fail you ever. It's so important. I don't know. This is like a really interesting conversation to be having because I'm still very much figuring out my, you know, how I feel about these things, and like I'm on my own journey with it too. I just think recently going through a time that's particularly stressful, you know, it's nothing like detrimental to my health, but it's just like, oh my god, every fucking thing is like happening at once, like, oh my god, that kind of stress. Having something to turn to, you realize, oh my god, that what the fuck? How would you get through a time of uncertainty and stress if you had nothing to turn to? Do you know what I mean? And like, friends are amazing for this, family is amazing for this, but like, I don't know, it's like they're gonna be busy, they're gonna have other shit on their plate. Not everyone has the capacity to level you out all the time, you know? And that's also why it's so important to have a good relationship with yourself. Do you know what I mean? And like, and I know that's quite like open-ended and vague, and it's like, how does one do that, you know? But like, being able to turn to yourself and like have your own back and like have that kind of self-trust and compassion and just being your own friend is so fucking important when times of uncertainty and stress are happening, or even just not when they're not happening. It is huge to be able to feel like you're on the same team as yourself and the same page as yourself, and like there's other things going on in your life, and that's great, and there might be other great people and great things in your life, but then, you know, your relationship with you is, again, a through line that will always be there. It will always, you have always been there for yourself. You will always be there with yourself. And that's why investing in strengthening that relationship is fucking huge, because you don't realize how important it is until shit hits the fan and you're like, thank fuck I have myself. Thank fuck that I have my own back and I can look after myself and, you know, listen to myself and be patient with myself. And if you're someone who's not on the same page as yourself at all, and you just beat yourself up all the time, which is very human, and we all will do, but you know, if that's kind of all you do and shit goes wrong, like, it's just starts to feel like unmanageable. Like, do you know what I mean? It feels like too much to handle, whereas, you know, everything just feels a lot more manageable when you kind of have these things to turn to, and you know, turning to yourself is definitely one of them. And it so depends on the situation, as to whether you turn to yourself or you turn to something bigger, or you turn to a friend or your boyfriend. Do you know what I mean? Because those things, I'm not like trying to discredit the importance of those things, because I do very much believe that a lot of what life is about is like creating connections and relationships with people and things. You know, it's very fun and important and needed. Again, I think that we're meant to just be like with our friends playing in the field. Like, I don't think we're meant to be like, I don't think we're meant to be at work. I don't think I'm meant to be at work. I'm kidding, but like, am I? But you know, that's very important, and these things are great to turn to. And after a stressful day, coming home to your boyfriend or going out for a drink with your best friend, these things feel like a warm hug, and these things are very important. And you know, it's just also having something beyond that, because like I said, that's not always there. Do you know what I mean? And even when it is, and it's great, having like this, it's not like a plan B. I don't want to fucking say that, because it's not, but having this kind of like thing outside of everything else in your life is important, because then you just take everything a little bit less seriously. It's like, you're kind of like, this is great and I can appreciate this, but also like, the world is not over. Should, you know, things not go the way that I want, feel more comfortable and like relaxed, knowing that like shit will work out. I promise you I'm not high, and this was just something that's on my mind. But I am gonna stop talking about this now. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I don't know what I'm gonna call this, because I don't really know what the fuck my point was. But just wanted to talk about what was on my mind this week. And you know, as much as I love making this podcast for people to listen to, I also love that it's kind of like a time capsule that I can listen back to and be like, yeah, I remember that. You know, this is something that is important to me, and that, like I said, I've felt connected to nature in this way um since I was like a fucking child. I have felt this way, so it's like, to not have an episode on my channel about it, I feel like wouldn't be very me, you know. I just think it's fucking wild that, like, you know, we're all living alongside each other. Like I said, the tides and the moon and animals and like the trees and the seasons and our, like I said, our moods. And you know, I think women and the moon have a fucking wild connection. But like, I don't know, I just think it all just makes you feel like you're a part of something bigger, because you are, you know. It makes your external life feel so much more manageable, and even your internal life, like, when your thoughts are too much, you go outside and you're like, so much more manageable to just touch some grass. I guess that's the point of this video, as a reminder to touch some grass, because it is so easy. I'm not gonna like fucking start talking in circles, but it is so easy in this world to forget to touch grass. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it was helpful. I hope it reminded you to center yourself and ground yourself, and that nothing that we do half the time with our days is fucking real. Do you know what I mean? Not to seem kind of like, whoa, but like, the real world is not on your phone. You know, the real world is like off your phone. So I hope you enjoyed. I will talk to you next week.